Listen, there will be tension in your marriage. There will be times you're frustrated with each other, but name calling or labeling of any kind not only escalates conflicts, but it is very damaging to your partner and your relationship. It will erode your connection. There will be a loss of respect and safety within your partnership, guaranteed.
Harder and harder to repair, and then harder and harder to rebuild the longer that this goes on. And your marriage really does deserve honesty, but it can all be done with kindness.
Labels shift the dynamic from we're working through something hard together to you are the problem. Clarity creates connection. Labels create distance.
Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans. Listen, there will be tension in your marriage. There will be times you're frustrated with each other. You will trigger each other from time to time, and you will disagree. But name calling or labeling of any kind not only escalates conflicts, but it is very damaging to your partner and your relationship. You might be able to forgive it one time, but if there are recurring or repeated instances of labeling each other and name calling, it will erode your connection. There will be a loss of respect and safety within your partnership, guaranteed. You should absolutely speak up about what you need and share your feelings, but there's a responsible way to do that. How you express yourself matters, even when you are upset. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because remember, yes, hurt people, but hurt people also need healing and need to be responsible for not causing damage to others.
So many good points you bring up there. And I know it seems like the topic is simple, but there's really a lot under the surface. So I'm really glad that we're covering this today. So when we think about label, they can be things that seem subtle. I could say, oh, you're needy. And it seems like a minor jab. And that can range to things that are overtly hurtful, like you are a fill in the blank with a cuss word. Now, the thing to take away is a label, number one, is not effective, right? So we're trying to communicate and handle conflict and manage life stressors in a way that keeps us on the same team. And we want to do things that are effective for staying on the same team. Okay, so labels are not effective. The other part about labels, it does damage to your partner, to your loved one. So those are the reasons why you shouldn't. And I think we see people fall into the traps around pop psychology. A label is also not watching a bunch of videos and then labeling your partner, even as I would say anxious or avoidant, like, oh, you're such an anxious attached partner, or even saying you're a narcissist.
Like any diagnostic pop psychology terms.
Yeah, and if you do have a concern about a personality disorder or something like narcissism, then what you want to do is find licensed professional to help through that. But we want to go into more of this labeling. We need to be effective, and we don't want to do more damage to our partner.
See, labels attack each other's identity, not behavior. That's very hurtful to attack each other's identity, and we will explain more why. They also don't inspire change. They don't motivate each other to say, you're right, babe, I want to be better. They don't. They're demotivating. They actually create shame, resistance, and put your walls up against each other. Here's a deeper thing. Labels rewire and change the way you see each other. And this goes two ways. One, when I start to label you, my brain is going to find more reinforcement for that being true. It's actually going to start to look for specific evidence for that being the case.
It's going to create a confirmation bias situation.
Exactly. So it builds momentum. And then second, it also, for the partner hearing that label, so if I called you a name or I labeled you something, you are going to see me differently. I'm no longer the safe partner. I'm no longer the person that builds you up or that you can come to with anything or that you can be imperfect and we process things with or that I see you in a good light. You're now someone, or I'm someone to you that you have to protect yourself against. You have to defend your image. And that starts to impact your communication and your conflict because you're no longer even just communicating about the matter of fact or details, trying to understand each other. Now you are trying to dodge each other's negative perception.
I would also say there's a more subtle impact on the individual that if, let's say if you label me once, this isn't going to happen. But if you label me repeatedly, then I will start to see myself that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I start to think, oh, I am that kind of person. So it does play a big role in your partner's self-image and self-confidence because it changes the way I see myself.
Right.
Man, maybe I am that way.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about then, okay, Freeman, so if we don't label each other, what we're going to get there. But we need to just really paint the picture of why this is damaging so that you are very motivated to change this behavior. Here's the thing. It erodes almost faster than anything emotional safety in your relationship. And without emotional safety, you can't communicate. You can't navigate conflicts on the same team. And you won't feel safe to open up to each other. So you will start to hold things back from each other. And it just continues to create damage in the short term and the long term. You two stop being honest with each other. Stop being as authentic. You even worry, if I tell this to my partner, is it going to reinforce this label that they call me? Or now in this interaction, again, I'm like having to dodge the way they see me. So there's less authenticity, less honesty, less transparency with each other. And labels shift the dynamic from we're working through something hard together to you are the problem. Mm-hmm. It's no longer the two of us against the problem. It is you and I against each other.
Mm-hmm. Creates separation. It creates distance. And it doesn't then allow for repair, reconnection, or rebuilding of trust to happen.
So we really hope that paints the picture of how damaging it is on a deep psychological level, the emotional safety in your relationship. It escalates conflict. Like you should have all the reasons why this pattern needs to change.
I'll add one more thing too. It also, that we've seen, take something that could have been a blip to something that you actually need to repair from now.
True.
So a lot of your tensions and early conflict cycles could be more moved on from. They could be quick acknowledgement, oh, sorry about that. And then you could move on and not have to go through a repair process, which is our 5 R's. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you label, you're now doing more damage. And that is something you need to repair from. So now you're going to have to take more time, more self-reflection, take responsibility for that, hear the impact that's had on your partner, and then really make a promise and give reassurance that that's not going to happen in the future. So it's a longer process, right? So you don't just move past things easily and quickly.
And to be very clear, Aaron and I, you and I, we do not label each other at all. Like I was just thinking about it and I was like, we don't even say things that are like, you're such a jerk or you're so mean, like even things that aren't cuss words. Mm-hmm. There's none because we know, again, the impact on how we see each other. So I want you to understand this is possible. And yes, we disagree. Yes, we argue and we can argue without hurting each other, which we're going to get into. So what do you do instead of labeling each other?
Well, first of all, and we had mentioned it earlier, but you can talk about or label a behavior or an action and not the person. You're not making a characterization. And that is the best way to address behaviors and their impact and be able to make a request for change. If you talk about, again, hey, that action affecting me this way rather than you are the label.
So you can label the behavior. You can also label your feelings. That's actually really the most honest thing that you can do is instead of labeling your partner, get vulnerable and share what you are feeling. And this is so often what we see is that people, even linking to another podcast episode, right, get so reactionary. So then they label their partner. It escalates things rather than, you know what, deep down, I'm actually just feeling hurt or I'm feeling disconnected or I feel misunderstood. Like be more honest with what you're feeling instead of being hurtful.
And here's a little insight I just realized about that. It actually creates more of an objective truth than a subjective truth to argue with. All right, so let me tell you what I mean. So if I say create a label about you, now it's subjective. I don't see myself that way, you do, and then now we're in a back and forth. If you simply label, hey, your action and how I feel, that's objective. There's no subjectivity. It's like when you did that, I felt this way. What is there to argue against?
Yeah.
And you can actually deal more directly with the impact rather than get into this. So often we get into this subjective opinion about, well, I disagree. I don't think so. This, that. Well, that's not needy. Oh, that wasn't unloving. That wasn't disrespectful. And it's like, look, when you talk to me that way, I feel controlled or I feel that I'm not valuable.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, shoot, I need to deal with that. That's how you feel. There's really nothing for me to argue with.
That's so true. So the third thing that you can label instead of your partner is label your boundaries, which are about you, by the way. So I want to really clarify because people miscommunicate boundaries and they'll state things like, stop yelling at me. And they'll say, but that's a boundary is yelling. Stop yelling at me. Here's a better, more clear way to express boundaries. If you continue to blank, here's what I'm going to do. And so that can look like, hey, if you continue to yell at me in this conversation, I'm going to step out of the room. And yeah, I know that sounds bold and that sounds direct. We're not talking about in everyday interactions, like you're in the kitchen and you're like, if you're going to continue to be grumpy, I'm stepping out of the room.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about being like that. We're saying in more tense conversations or where there's some real honesty that's needed with each other, which happens from time to time in a marriage, then okay, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do if this boundary keeps getting crossed. Okay, so let's actually, and here's the thing with boundaries. They protect your peace instead of punishing the other person. Here's some scripts for this. Okay, Freemans, I don't want to label my partner anymore. I understand it's impacting the relationship, them, me, all of it. Here's some scripts you want to write down and use. When you do blank, it makes me feel blank. And what I need from you is to do this instead. Or that's my request. Or if it continues, here's what I'll do. It can be a variation of those because it's different per what you're actually saying. And so this is really, really important that you shift the behavior because what it does is it helps you both feel as though you can communicate more proactively instead of let's fight in the moment. And this is where we express our anger at each other. And this is how, let me tell you all the things I need and I'm feeling, but in a hurtful way. And that's where I want to give you some really helpful reminders. You guys are going to want to write some of these down because these are like motivational quotes, shifts to make. Get vulnerable instead of getting mean. Share how you're really feeling authentically and vulnerably instead of saying something that's hurtful to your partner. Say what you feel without turning it into an attack. Name the impact, not their character. Be honest without being hurtful. Clarity creates connection. Labels create distance. So those are just some quotes you want to write down, maybe tattoo one on your wrist to remember.
So, though it may have seemed simple to just not label your partner, we really wanted you to understand the impact so that you really commit to removing this behavior. Because though labeling in the moment brings a sense of relief to yourself, it really does erode the connection and it has the cost of emotional intimacy. The more you do it, then the less safe your marriage becomes. And it does become, as we mentioned earlier, harder and harder to repair and then harder and harder to rebuild the longer that this goes on. And your marriage really does deserve honesty. You get to say to each other what's negatively affecting you, what unmet need you have, what requests you have, any new agreements. You get to have these conversations, but it can all be done with kindness.
It really can. And respecting each other and honoring each other and communicating instead of fighting. And so I really do hope that for everyone listening, this is deeply impactful. Like, this is an episode that we do hope awakens you in a way, that it is sobering, that it is getting your attention, because it is one of the most damaging things that you can do in your relationship. And we really need you to get that. Remember that instead of labeling each other, you can label your feelings, your boundaries, and how their behavior impacts you. That is productive. That is communication. Now, if this is an area that you guys continue to struggle around conflict staying productive and conflict not being destructive, then utilize our resources. And everyone's always asking, can we do sessions with you? And we wish we could meet with everyone privately, but unfortunately we have a very long wait list. So get our de-escalating conflicts guide so that you can start to handle conflict in a productive way and regulate your emotions better, and get the making up and moving forward guide for repair. Those two resources, and we have many others, they're all at meetthefreemans.com/links. You can really benefit from all of our resources, but those are two that specific to this topic are very beneficial. And if you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can hear past and future episodes. If you enjoy our podcast, it helps us so much if you write a comment, write a review. We read all of those, and they really do help us reach even more couples. But we are grateful that you're here today, and we will talk to you on the next episode.